Okay, do we have people now? All right. I would like to call to order the January 18th, 2023 meeting of the San Mateo County Harbor District Board of Commissioners. Can I have a roll call, please? Have I got Melanie there?
Yeah, she's working, trying to promote Catherine.
Oh, okay.
I think we're, hold on. Catherine? Okay, there you
There
go.
she is. Thank you.
We're good.
I apologize. Here I go.
Oh, okay, great. Can we have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Zemke,
Present.
Commissioner Matoush,
Present.
Commissioner Chang Crawley,
Present.
Commissioner Slater Carter. Up, unmute yourself. Nope. There you go. Just push
There
the,
we go. Can you hear me now? I'm here.
Yes.
and Commissioner Damrat.
Present.
Okay. Great. Next item is public comment. This is an opportunity for any member of the public that wishes to make a comment to the commission on a subject that is not on the agenda. Do we have any hands raised or comments?
We have one hand raised, telephone number ending in 0066. Go ahead. Yep, go ahead.
Hi, thank you. Yeah, I'm dialing in, so I needed to do the *6.
Yep, we can hear you.
Thank you. Thank you. My name is Allison Madden. I realize that comment time is limited. Welcome and congratulations to the new commissioners. I have sent an email public comment, and I would like to ask you to spend some time looking at that. I'm representing the people at Oyster Cove Marina, and we want to have a really productive and proactive conversation. I spoke at the last meeting, and I'm sorry I couldn't listen to the whole meeting. I had to go, but I understand that the general manager, Mr. Pruitt, gave some input at the end, and then we had an extensive email back and forth, and I've been communicating with Nell Sellender. We'll be speaking to the BCDC commissioners tomorrow because we think some misunderstandings have happened just out of natural, human communication and so many people getting involved to make something good happen. And so, we really want to advocate for October 15th being the end date and really relaxing this April 1st initial time period, which isn't even 6 months after the commissioners approved the safe harbor of being able to allow going over 10% liveaboards. We feel like the BCDC enforcement kind of introduced this concept of a compliance plan that made this a lot more difficult. Some people have been forced to take unsafe slips. One woman had her power go out. She's alone, not in community in San Rafael. Her boat almost sank. And so there's just a lot of time to just be kind of gentle and understanding with people until October 15th. And they know they have to leave. It's normal harbor management. And I just feel like the BCDC enforcement kind of introduced something bureaucratic that has really kind of gotten out of hand. The end date is shorter than a year. It's been referenced that there's a deadline for coming over when the people that are still at Oyster Cove are really just insisting that the Tenant Protection Act be followed. And when they're properly noticed, they'd like to come over. They understand they have to leave within the year. And so I think there's just like 4 different elements that have gotten really confused. And if people could pay attention to the email comment, maybe we can make some progress. We'll be speaking to BCDC tomorrow and I don't think the commissioners have any idea how the execution is gone. Thank you very much.
Thanks. So Bill, we have to make sure that we're keeping time.
Thank you for the comment. She got started late. I gave her a little leeway
Okay.
there.
Thank you.
Okay, but thank you for your comment. Do we have any other hands raised that you can see?
No hands raised.
Okay, we will move along to commissioner comments. You notice that we've made a few changes to the order of the agenda, but this would be an opportunity for commissioners that wish to make a comment at this time. Do we have any hands raised there?
One up in the corner.
Okay, Tom,
Just wanted to make sure everybody knew after these massive amount of storms, how well the harbor performed and stood up under adverse circumstances. I've been here over 30 years and I've never seen storms like this, and particularly in the past when we had these type of storms, there'd be half a dozen boats on the beaches and a lot of problems. The way the harbor patrol and the staff has just made sure things are in operational condition and checking on so many things. It's really a sign of things that are different within the harbor, and I commend everyone with the Harbor District.
okay. Now Commissioner Chan Corrali, looks like your hand is raised as well.
Yeah, so I want to echo what Tom said and just, thank everyone, all the staff and the harbor crew for the great work that they have done, especially with that fire on EDOC a few days ago, or I think it was last week. And also, from what I understand, with that double slide well, I don't even want to say it's an incident. From what I've heard, and Jim, tell me if I'm wrong, we had some of our harbor crews on standby, like a little further out, just in case their services were needed, while Coastside Fire, the CHP, and I think the sheriff's office were working to deal with that incident of the Tesla going off the cliff. So I just know that we are always prepared as best as we can to be there for the community. But Jim, if you could just thank everyone. It's been a hard time, especially on the coast, from the entire coast, from Pacifica all the way down to the Santa Cruz county border. And I just want to thank our staff and our crew for just being there for the community, because I think that the community really appreciates it. From everything I've heard, I've been getting texts and, as much as I can, phone calls about all of this. So just know that you're very much appreciated. Thank you.
Okay, any other hands raised here? I see none. And I would just like,
Catherine's got
Yep.
her hand. Oh, no,
what's Catherine's got her hand up? Okay.
no, that was my cursor over her name.
Oh,
Real quick, Bill.
Yes.
This is John Moran, Director of Operations. On behalf of Operations, I'd like to thank the commissioners for acknowledging the great job that all the district staff have done. And of course, I know that the commissioners mean Oyster Point staff as well. We had significant flooding challenges at Oyster Point that the staff were able to mitigate very professionally with the general manager's help, getting South San Francisco to assist as well. But the staff at Oyster Point, as well as Pillar Point, spent a lot of long hours in adverse conditions, walking the docks to make sure all the boats were taken care of. People that didn't neglected to take care of their lines, didn't anticipate such strong winds, etc. And the general manager will be speaking more about it in his discussion.
thank you, John. We do appreciate the work that your folks do and the job that has been done. So thanks.
I have a quick question for
Yes.
Don, actually, and maybe Jim. So Jim, you have been doing a fantastic job updating us on things as things develop, incidents come up. But John, just out of curiosity, John, I know that our crew and everything, we were all ready, but were there any other notable incidents besides those two or any kind of issues that we should be aware of besides the flooding, both here and at Oyster Point? How are the liveaboards dealing with the flooding, things like that? Maybe that's in your report and you might want to give that later, but I'm just curious.
I'll be covering that in my
Okay,
general
okay.
manager's report.
That's perfect. Okay, thanks. Then we'll just wait till then. Thank you.
Okay. Is that it? I guess we can move along to the December activities reports. Jim, how would you like to? Do you want to introduce this, or what's your preference?
I will go ahead and provide my report, and then we'll follow it up with operations and then admin and finance. I might steal their thunder, similar to what John Moran just did for me, but it's all right. We'll work through it. It's a result of his hard work is where we're at. But we had 8 or 9 names, or not name storms, but storms hit the harbor since Christmas, and all of them were strong storms. All of them were crashing over the breakwater. Strong winds, extremely strong winds, 50 knots. And for the first time in a long time, we didn't have a single vessel break free of moorage and end up on the beach. So that itself is a remarkable achievement. And again, the direct result of the work that the harbor master is doing, trying to secure vessels and also move vessels on that are not seaworthy. So that was great news. Both facilities, Oyster Point and Pillar Point, did receive some minor damage. Some cleats getting pulled out of the docks. Pillar Point floats were relocated from under the docks. We were able to put those floats back somewhat to make sure the docks were safe, but we will have to hire a contractor to come in and put those floats in properly and secure them under those docks. And we're working towards that. There was a small landslide at Oyster Point, but it was on South San Francisco's property, so they will be taking care of that. The first couple storms hitting the area flooded out the vac station, which the vac station provides pressure in the sewage system for that side of the marina. If we lose the vacuum, we lose the sewage system, and we lost the sewage system a couple times. However, we got working with South San Francisco, came up with a plan, and South San Francisco executed it to divert the water into the vac station area. And since then, the vac station has not flooded. So great work by Jim Smith and his crew, and working with South San Francisco and providing a temporary fix on that to get us through this winter. Other than that, there wasn't any significant damage to the harbor based on the storms. The harbor remained open for business and did conduct business during the storms and right after the storms. There was some other related issues with the storms. And if I can share my screen, I will show a few things to you. So now you should see a picture of the swale, the new swale at West Trail, doing its job of capturing all the storm water on this side of the trail and putting it out into the marsh, which was great. It worked fantastic. Now the next one. Sorry, it's not working properly. Worked perfect when I practiced. So that's the swell working perfectly. Oh, it's just delayed. That's Capistrano Beach. You can see where the outflow from the other side of the road is coming into the harbor and taking out the sand there at Capistrano. This is the beach in front of Sam's Chowder House, and you can see the outfall right there in the center of the picture. All the water coming out of that outfall, and again, carving out the beach there, but also depositing a lot of sand. There's the outflow from above. It's like a river coming through there. Over on the other side of the harbor, another outfall. And then this is Capistrano Beach again. You can see the amount of water coming out of the storm drain that runs under the harbor. This is out of Mavericks Beach. That's the newly installed life-saving station that has the life ring buoy and the line. It got knocked over by a pretty strong wave. And as you can see, the ring buoy is missing because it got washed off. And all that concrete footing just ripped out like it was nothing. There's that same sign standing still. It wasn't standing much longer after this picture was taken. The swell again, working fantastic. This is on the other side of the living shoreline. So this is on the west side of it. And the hillside to the west of the project drained into the west side of the living shoreline project, causing significant erosion in that area. We've already engaged with the engineers and the architect on a fix for this, and we'll be working towards implementing that fix so that in the future, rainstorms coming in, that drainage will not come in and wash out that section of the living shoreline. But it was not at water action from the harbor. It was water action from runoff from the side of the hill. This is a picture of where this east breakwater makes landfall right at the RV park. And you can see that wave is not only crashing on the wall, it's above the wall, seawall. And there's the wave crashing in to the corner there. A lot of water washed up and over the breakwater in this location. This is Denison Creek. We worked real hard to keep it clear, but again, tree branch broke off and fell in front of it. That's a lot of water coming out of Denison Creek straight into the harbor. This is over by Harvard Avenue. You can see the river going down to the beach again and taking a lot of sand with it, making those lands right on the beach, again, eroding, bringing a lot of sand to the beach. So that's those are some damage or issues that are caused by the storm. And then I want to show you one other thing. If I can find it. This is on a loop, so it'll play again. This is when we had the real high winds. People were up on the cliff watching this happen. They were also leaning into the wind, trying to kind of surf the wind a little bit. But notice the wave breaking right over Mavericks and going out. There's our vessel right there, where Harbor Patrol is on a loudspeaker asking those people to leave the trail because we're going to close the trail and lock the parking lot up. But it's total wash over the wall there. And this happens on a regular basis for every storm that we have. I'll stop the sharing. So the storms were pretty spectacular for us, but really didn't have a hard impact on us, which was great. And again, that was as a result of the hard work of both harbor masters at both facilities and their crew doing all the prep work and making sure that we were safe. So can't thank them enough for what they did and the results. So fantastic work there. Also working with total separate issue now is working with the Army Corps of Engineers on a couple different issues and once they're fully vetted, we'll come to the board for direction, but getting an inspection or a walkthrough of the breakwater to see if these storms have damaged it in any way. Also looking at federal interest in the harbor with respect to the shoreline at Princeton by the Sea, which is eroded. And the reports indicate that the erosions that is a result of the installation of that breakwater. And the same thing with the West Trail, the shoreline on West Trail, again, caused by the installation of the breakwater, and then finally Surfers Beach. Again, the erosion was caused by the breakwater. And there is a continued authority program where if it's caused by the breakwater or something the Army Corps installed, then the Army Corps is responsible to come in and fix it. So we're working with them on those issues. They haven't accepted it all yet, but it starts with a study. And I'll be signing, because of the timing, we'll be signing a letter to them and bringing it to the board for full vetting in February, asking them to start that study. So that's great news. And working with One Shoreline, with all these issues from Surfers Beach and everything inside the harbor and the dredging, One Shoreline with sea level rise has agreed with us that the Harbor District really is the lead agency with that. And we'll be working in partnership with One Shoreline as we work through those issues. It might be a funding source. So great news. As also with the Army Corps, because we're going to be picking up our work with them significantly. I'll be recommending to the president of the board in February to assign Commissioner Darmarat to be the Army Corps liaison for the board and work with me as we work with the Army Corps. Other than that, we're working with South San Francisco to provide the report that BCDC is requiring on the liverboards, and we'll have that out tomorrow. And if you read the emails that you provided, most of the questions that she posed in the early public comment are addressed. Other than barring any questions, that's my report.
Thank you, Jim. John, did you want to give a report as well?
I think Jim covered.
Would
pretty
I
much
have a
every-
quick question though?
Oh.
So are we going to add a liaison position then, Jim? Is that what you're also asking for when we move down the agenda?
I'll be requesting at the February board that the president assign Commissioner Dormerat as a liaison. Yes.
Okay. Does that require board? Okay, we can talk about it then. I just want to make sure it doesn't require board action to approve that we have any liaison at all. And that's fine. I agree. George is the best person. I just want
I'll
to make sure
include that in my
following our
report.
process.
I will include that in my report.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, as long as we have Jim there, are there any other questions for Jim? Okay, thank you, Jim. John, go ahead.
I think General Manager covered everything pretty good. The only thing I would add is the like many of the local beaches, for multiple reasons, safety and water quality, etc., were closed. So we did close West Trail temporarily, but Pillar Point Harbor staff, led by Harbor Master Chris Tibby and Assistant Harbor Master Dante Madrigal, were able to this morning actually get a small piece of equipment out there to clear debris from West Trail. So West Trail is open again to the public.
Okay. Thank you, John, for all the hard work that you and your crew does out there. I know they've been very, very busy the last 2-3 weeks, so thanks again. Any comments from the commission on John's report? Okay, we can move along to Julie.
Good afternoon, commissioners. Our staff has been extremely busy over the last year. In this month of December, we continue to work on issues of our ERP system and troubleshoot. We finally got out our past due notices for our birthers, and so getting that process up and running. We're talking about storms, and one of the things that happened during these storms is that our internet and our power went out here in the main office, and so a lot of the work that we do is dependent on accessing files that are on the server. here in the office. And one of the projects that we're working on is to move our files to SharePoint so that we'll just need an internet connection and you can move your computer around to get that connection if need be, so that our operations will continue to run if there is another internet power outage here on the coast side. That will be coming up shortly. We're working to complete our fiscal year 21-22 audit. That should be coming hopefully in February, if not February, at latest March. And we have a lot of, HR policies and different things that we're working on there. So thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Julie. Any commissioners that would like to comment on Julie's report?
I would like to add one thing.
Yes, Jen.
And we got notified yesterday, and for the third year in a row, the budget prepared by the district, which is mainly the work done by Julie, earned another outstanding achievement award from the Government Financial Officers Association, which is that's the third year in a row, which is remarkable and reflects greatly on the work that Julie does.
Okay. Congratulations, Julie.
Congratulations, Julie, to you and your
Success.
staff.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other commissioner comments? Hearing none. I will also open this just in case we have a member of the public that would like to comment as well. Are there any members of the public that would like to comment on the activity reports that were given? I don't see any hands raised.
Commissioner Zemke, I think Allison M has her hands raised.
Oh, okay.
Hi, thank you. I just wanted to say you guys do such great work. I really want to make sure you understand that I honor and respect the hard work. I think it's great what you've done during the storms. I just want to also advocate in general, because everyone knows this is my basic advocacy, which is advocating for floating communities because, they don't get buried in a mudslide or a landslide, and they're very adaptable. So I think the success of getting through these storms shows that. And I want to make sure that as we raise these issues with working out some of the BCDC issues with the safe harbor, that I completely respect the commission and the staff. And I appreciate you giving the time to listen to our concerns. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you for your comment. Do you see any other hands raised, Melanie?
No, I don't.
Okay. Then we can move along to the consent calendar. What I'd like to do on the consent calendar is first to ask if any member of the public has any comments that they would like to raise on the consent calendar.
Oh, I don't see any hands raised.
I don't see
Commissioner
any
Zemke.
hands raised. Okay, the consent calendar for the commissioners. Are there any items that the commissioners would like to pull from that calendar? Okay,
I'll
Hearing
make a
none,
motion
I
to
will
approve the
motion.
consent. I move to approve the consent calendar.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we approve the consent calendar as written. Could we have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Mathush,
Aye.
Commissioner Chang Crawley,
Aye.
Commissioner Slater Carter. Oh, Catherine, I think you're muted.
Yes.
Commissioner Donrat,
Aye.
Commissioner Zemke.
Aye. Okay, moving along to discussion items number 8. Which is the board organization item for Jim. Would you like to introduce this, please?
Good afternoon again. Acting President Zemke. At the beginning in January for the San Mateo County Harbor District, it's customary that the board select a president to serve for the year 2023 and also select a vice president to serve for the same year of 2023, and that the commissioner or the president also nominate a commissioner to serve as secretary, and then finally a commissioner or treasurer and secretary, and then finally a LAFCO liaison. President is automatically the LAFCO liaison, but the alternate should be selected also. So the staff recommends the commission elect the president to serve for the 2023 and newly elected president then call for nominations for the remaining offices that I mentioned.
Okay. Okay, we'll start that off with, can I have nominations for president for 2023?
I would like to nominate William Zemke for president.
I don't think we need a second for these. Bill,
We don't?
no,
You just
I
have
would
to
just
tell us,
ask if
are you
there are
willing
any
to
other
serve?
nominations.
Are
Yeah,
there any other nominations? Okay, hearing none, I will close the nominations. Can we have a roll call vote, please?
Commissioner Chang Crawley,
I,
Commissioner Slater Carter,
Yes.
Commissioner Domrat,
Yes.
Commissioner Zemke,
Aye.
Commissioner Mathush.
Aye.
Okay. Moving on, I will call for nominations for the position for 2023 of the vice president.
Commissioner Zemke,
Yes.
I think we have to say that you're willing to serve as president.
Oh.
So
Okay. I
Commissioner
will.
Mathush nominated you as president, and then the roll call was for you to serve as president. So to make it clear, that's what the roll call was for. And then do you accept that?
Yes,
position?
I do accept, and thank you for that reminder. I will be willing to serve as the president of the commission for 2023. And
thank you, Bill.
we will move along to the nominations for vice president for 2023.
I'd like to nominate Commissioner Mathush to be the vice president for 2023.
Any further nominations for vice president? Okay, I'll close the nominations and ask for a roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Slater Carter,
Yes.
Commissioner Domrat,
Yes.
Commissioner Zemke,
Yes,
Commissioner Mathush,
Yes.
Commissioner Chang Crawley.
Aye,
okay.
Yes, I will be willing to serve.
thank you,
Tom.
Tom.
Okay, we'll move along to treasurer. Do we have a nomination? for-
Treasurer or secretary?
Oh, what you want, which one do you want to do first? I can do secretary next.
Well, I think secretary is next.
Okay, let's do.
Look based on Jim's report.
Oh, okay. Based on that, I will open the nominations for secretary for 2023. I would like to nominate George Dummerant
I was just about to say the same thing.
for secretary for 2023. Are there any other further nominations? Okay, I will close the nominations and ask for a roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Domrat,
Aye.
Commissioner Zemke,
Aye.
Commissioner Mathush,
Aye.
Commissioner Chang Crawley,
Aye,
Commissioner Slater Carter.
Yes.
Okay. George, I assume that you're willing to do that?
I assume that's a safe assumption.
Oh, okay.
So, thank you very much. Yes, I will.
Very, very good. Thanks, George. Okay, I will now open nominations for the treasurer for 2023. May I have nominations, please?
I'd like to nominate Catherine Slater Carter.
Any further nominations? Okay, I will close the nominations and ask for a roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Zemke,
Aye.
Commissioner Mathush,
Aye.
Commissioner Chang Corrali,
Aye.
Commissioner Slater Carter,
And I will serve.
Commissioner Dummer.
Aye.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Catherine, for your acceptance. Then we will also, do we need to vote on the alternate for the LAFCO? Or we can,
Just appoint that.
should I just appoint it or?
You can appoint the LAFCO representative, I believe.
I would
Tricia,
like-
can I confirm that?
I don't know how it was done in the past. It's set up to vote just as the prior appointments were done.
So the safest thing is the vote.
Okay,
might as
we
well.
will do that. I will nominate Virginia Chan Corrali and to be the alternate for LAFCO. Do we have any other nominations? Okay, I will close the nominations and ask for a roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Mathush,
Aye.
Commissioner Chang Corrali,
Aye.
Commissioner Slater Carter,
Yes.
Commissioner Donrat,
Aye.
Commissioner Zemke.
Aye. Okay, I think that completes our slate for 2023, and thank you all for your cooperation and acceptance.
Thank you.
All right, we will move along then to item number 9. And the Surfer Beach Restoration Pilot Project. And John, I think that's yours.
It's good afternoon again, commissioners. This is a information only in accordance with the Brown Act. We'd ask the board to receive a Surfers Beach Restoration Pilot Project progress update from consultant Damitz. And it is a Brown Act requirement that the board be notified of a CEQA notice of determination, which Brad will elaborate on. Melanie, can you let Brad in?
Thank you, John. Thanks, Melanie. Hello, commissioners. Thanks for the opportunity to give this update. And George, good to see you on the board. Welcome. Going to be a great expert and addition to the commission, Board of Harbor Commissioners. Yes, so I was just going to give a real quick update. The idea here is to just kind of fill you in quickly and then come back in February and give a much more detailed update when we have some more information to present. But the main purpose of this agenda item today was to kind of provide an announcement that the CEQA process for the Surfers Beach project has kind of come to completion. And what that means is that we wrote a initial study, mitigated negative declaration, put it out to public comment, followed all the requirements, and then determined and signed a notice of determination that the project is not likely to cause any significant impacts with the mitigation measures that are part of the proposed program. So we can get into the more details about that in the next presentation. If anybody has any questions today, I can answer them. But the short of it is that there is really no sensitive species or impacts to public access, cultural resources, anything like that that are presented by the project, which is good news. As far as the update for the brief update for the project itself, everything is still going according to plan. Permitting process has been underway for quite some time now, and for a project like this, that's a really long and detailed process. We submitted permit applications last year and have been working with the agencies to kind of answer all the questions that they have regarding a variety of different things. The quality of the sediment that's going to be dredged and placed on the beach, the impacts to all the different species that are found in the area, details about the plans. So we've just been working hard and responding to those inquiries. No permits have been received yet, but they're still under review. I don't anticipate any issues with the project being approved. The Army Corps and EPA had recently signed off on our proposal for the dredging portion of the project and the use of those certain sediments to be placed on Surfers Beach, that they're clean, non-contaminated, and beach compatible. So that was good news. As far as the engineering and design process, that's an ongoing process. We've had 30% plans for quite some time and a preliminary design report. Both of them are available on the website, the Surfers Beach webpage. And the plans are now being revised by our engineers at ESA in response to some comments received by permitting agencies. So one of the changes is going to be that the design that's currently proposed is going to be revised just a bit to be more to mimic like a natural beach profile rather than a large overbuilt berm. And some of the dredging areas are being modified slightly to avoid some of the siltier material, but we're still going to be dredging off of the boat launch ramps, kind of kill two birds with one stone, take care of that maintenance need, but also be able to provide sediment for the beach nourishment and also the eelgrass restoration in the west basin of the harbor. So that's happening. We should have those 90% planned sometime in February, and I'll come back and present those, the details of those. Other things, funding, we still have the grant from Department or Division of Boating and Waterways to pay for $800,000 worth of the construction of the project. We've partnered with the Greater Farallones National Marine Sanctuary and the Greater Farallones Association to get a NOAA Effects of Sea Level Rise grant, part of which will help fund the biological monitoring for the project, which is a really good thing, $125,000 that the Harbor District, won't have to put into those aspects of the project, and we'll be able to get some good work done with that. And then, it's kind of late in the game now, but we're still looking at funding opportunities and have just worked on an application for another Division of Boating and Waterways grant. So, that's still something that's ongoing. Other stuff, we are working on a physical monitoring plan. So how do we, take measurements of the dredging areas and the beach areas and the eelgrass area before the project to get a baseline, and then measure it over time to determine where the sand has gone and how long it stays on the beach and how the beach profiles change and that kind of stuff. ESA is working on that as part of their contract. And we'll be coming up with the same sort of monitoring program for the biological and ecological aspects. So how does it affect on the local species and the use by seabirds, and how does the eelgrass mitigation portion of the project kind of move forward? Or is the eelgrass successful in spreading, or are we having issues? So those kind of things, the planning for that is being worked out. And then next steps are looking towards the bid process. So this is with this eelgrass mitigation component, it really complicates the timeline and the sequence of events that have to take place before we can put out that bid. So a huge part of the project is mitigating for all that eelgrass that's established itself and the dredging areas in the East Basin. And we need to, any of that that's going to be damaged, mitigate for it, which means basically create a new habitat on the other side of the harbor that's outside of the impacts of dredging and vessel operations, and reestablish eelgrass in those areas. So in order to do that, we have to know how much eelgrass is going to be damaged by the dredging. And because of all the permitting agency requirements, you cannot take that measurement until the beginning of growing season, which begins April 1st. So, as soon as we can do that in early April, we're arranging to get another eelgrass survey done and then calculate how much we need to mitigate for, and then redo the plans in the West Basin according to those final numbers to be able to come up with that process. We're looking at ways to put it out to bid for that by maybe putting some sort of clause in the bid documents that say, here are the late 2019 eelgrass figures. Give us a bid for that, plus, what the cost would be for incremental amount of larger or smaller amount of eelgrass. And I've been down there several times at low tides and looked. Doesn't seem like the eelgrass in the East Basin has spread that much, although I noticed that the eelgrass in the West Basin, which is the only other place where there's eelgrass beds, has seemed to spread quite a bit since you took this measurement. So I'll report back to you on that later. Other than that, still planning on late spring, early summer timeline to be able to start that eelgrass mitigation part of the project, which involves dredging harbor, dredging sediment in the West Basement and building up a platform of the appropriate depth that kind of goes out, deepening the shallow areas and shallowing the deeper areas to create this platform to reestablish eelgrass, and then adding some more material from over near the boat launch ramps to get the total volume. And then once that happens, then we can start dredging for the actual Surfers Beach project and replanting some of the eelgrass in the West Basin. So there's a lot of details, there's a lot of wheels in motion, but things seem to be proceeding fairly smoothly and according to plan. It's just going to be, like I said, a lot of different sequencing of different tasks once we get closer to the springtime. So with that, I guess that's the quick update, and we'll get back to you with more. I can take any questions if anybody has any.
So Brad, I have a quick question. Do you see, with all of the rain coming down and water coming out of the creeks, the water quality coming out of those creeks is not necessarily pristine. I would bet that some of the sediment quality out of those creeks also could be an issue. Do you foresee any kind of testing you may do in the springtime again to see if any of the material that is now entering the harbor could be of concern prior to the dredging?
Yeah, I don't foresee that. In fact, we just submitted a really long memo to Army Corps and to EPA regarding the quality of that sediment. Typically, if you have more than 80% sand, they don't require any kind of chemical analysis on that material because it's coarse grained and it doesn't really attract those contaminants, whereas the finer grain clay and silt does have, it can bind with those contaminants and cause issues. So some of the material off of the boat launch ramp was less than 80% sand, and they came back to us after we put in the permit application and says, we're going to require you to test that material unless you can prove to us that there's not likely any effect, or that likely none of that material would be contaminated and placed on the beach. So we did an analysis on all the recent spills in the harbor since the last time the sediment was tested. We looked at a variety of inputs like the creeks that you're talking about, and then we analyzed the sand. And what we found was that the first thing, the only material that's less than 80% sand will go over to the eelgrass area because that's a good eelgrass substrate. It's not good for placement on the beach. So that ruled out, the potential of putting any contamination over on the beach nourishment project. So yeah, give you a long answer for a short question. No, we don't foresee that being required. And the EPA and Army Corps just recently signed off and said, we accept your conclusion here. You're on mute.
I do understand the finer grain material is what attracts the contaminants. You don't anticipate a lot of that fine material coming in the last 2 weeks of storms and all the rain runoff?
No, that material tends to kind of wash its way farther off, and then the coarser grain material is where the dredging areas are off of the boat launch ramp. So we don't foresee that being an issue. I talked to the engineers, Bob Battaglio and Louis White at ESA about that. And in the technical specs, they're going to include some sort of guidance to the contractor to, continually monitor the sediment. And then if they come with any fine grain material that didn't show up in the testing, not to place it on Surfers Beach, to basically cease operation, move the dredge inland to another area. So,
and you're probably breathing a little sigh of relief knowing that we wanted to get that beach built a while ago. If we would have built it this past summer, we might probably not see it today. So,
yeah, I think that last set of storms would have
yeah,
wiped everything out. So it's a fortunate piece of
thank you
news.
so much, Brett. Appreciate
thanks,
your
George.
Okay. Commissioner Matoush, you had a comment.
Yes, Brad, I heard you say that there's been signs that the eelgrass beds are expanding a little bit. On one hand, that's a good thing, but how do we calculate the baseline? Because if the eelgrass beds are expanding, then we're gonna have to mitigate a whole lot more, and that's gonna be a whole lot more expense.
Right. And the interesting thing about the eelgrass is that was never natural eelgrass habitat. It's only growing in these areas because it's shoaled in since the breakwaters were built, right? But nonetheless, it's important habitat and we do need to mitigate for it. I don't anticipate the area that has, in my observation, seemed to have expanded is part of the eelgrass mitigation area rather than the dredging area. So that shouldn't increase the requirement too much. The stuff over along the east breakwater that's of concern, we're going to leave one area of that untouched as a reference bed, even though we're going to mitigate for that amount, so it could be dredged in the future. We're going to watch that over time to be able to determine, this doesn't directly answer your question, but we're going to observe that over time to be able to determine if the mitigated eelgrass area isn't recovering as planned, whether it's some other factor. You usually have a reference site that you can refer to be able to do that study. I think worst case scenario, let's say that there was a whole lot more eelgrass in the East Basin than there was before, which is not my observations, and we were required to do a whole bunch more and it was outside of the budget. We could still, just for this project, only mitigate for the amount, the portion of eelgrass that's going to be directly impacted by dredging, and then deal with the other stuff later.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. Commissioner Giancarelli, you had a comment.
Yeah, so actually this is more for Jim, and maybe even John. So Jim, over the weekend and actually even the latter part of the week last week, I've I was tagged on a Facebook post by residents in the Princeton area in El Granada, and I think they've been patiently waiting for years, and so I'm just wondering if it makes sense for us to put some synthesized information on our website as to the timeline, because they just want to know when this is going to get done. And I just think that maybe better external communication would be helpful to the public. I mean, is there any, it could be a one-page synopsis of, even like what the timeline might even look like at this point.
We can put additional information on the webpage as to the current status of the project. We do that for all the projects, so this will be no different.
Yeah.
I'll also be discussing the project at the State of the Coast Guide event tomorrow.
Oh God,
and,
that's tomorrow. That's right.
That also will get information out to the Chamber of Commerce and others who attend.
And we might want to put that on social media just because people have just been asking about it. And I know I've been tagged and I just want to have the information ready. But thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other commissioner comments? Okay, are there any members of the public that would like to comment on this topic? I don't see any hands raised.
There is one hand
No,
raised.
we have a hand raised.
Is there?
Yeah, and actually, I don't know if it's for this item or for the previous item.
Thank you, President Semke. Appreciate you making sure I got my chance. Listen, I think it's great what you're doing, but you all seem to be missing the real problem here. The real problem is one more well-aimed, poorly timed storm is going to take out Highway 1. You already had large chunks of the bike path being tossed up onto the highway. This is why you're getting tagged, Commissioner Corrali. It's not about eelgrass. It's about the fact that the very way of life on the coast side is really endangered by the harbor. And nothing has been done. And as you can see, nothing is going to get done for a very long time. So when you put that information out for the public, some things that they need to know is how much money is this projected to cost, some sort of a cost range. How much money do you actually have to do anything? Because as you know, plans are great, but if there's no capital, there ain't no project. So I would like to hear that addressed today is where do we stand financially? Where is it kind of cost this? How much time how long before we can even hope that Surfers Beach would be acting as a barrier toward incoming storms wrecking Highway 1? And we've already almost lost 92. We lose 91 or 92 and Highway 1 at the same time. We can't afford helicopter service here. Last, you should note that there's probably only one public member here, and that's me. It's only because I have a weird job. It's very difficult for the public to attend these meetings. And the reason that is because you have them during the day. So we need to change that so people can attend. I wish you luck because you know you're in a world of hurt financially and nothing's even started. And now you are an existential threat to the coast side and you're talking about eelgrass. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for the comment. Any other comments from the public? Okay, seeing none. Any other comments from the commission at this point? Okay, we can close this item. Thank you for the update.
Thank you.
Moving on to item number 10, which is the general manager's draft goals and objectives for 2023. Jim.
Again, thank you very much, President Zemke, and appreciate the opportunity. I presented the draft goals and objectives to the board in December for information, and I did receive some feedback both from board members and from the public that I integrated into these revised goals and objectives. They didn't change significantly, but they did change somewhat. Goal number one remains to improve availability to provide maritime search and rescue and maritime assist. That is to find the reoccurring funding to hire 6 additional deputy harbor masters so that we can fully staff the harbor and be available to do search and rescue. It's very important that we keep that capability for the safety and security of the coast side. We're the only ones that do it. And as part of that, Commissioner Corrali mentioned it earlier, that we did respond to a car that drove over the cliff with 4 occupants at the outer edges of our response area. And the battalion chief, who is the on-scene area commander, incident commander, issued the following email that I'll read to you to this harbor district. And this is from the battalion chief of Coastside Fire. I am not sure who responded to the cliff rescue the other day. Maybe it was you, but I wanted to pass on my extreme thanks to the crews. I know it was cold and miserable, and I appreciate the response. I was trying to communicate directly with them, but having difficulty from my ICP. I could hear them, but couldn't transmit. So State Parks was relay for me. When I asked them to stay on scene, I know that it was cold and miserable, but I felt a whole lot better with them there, considering the location of my rescue crews at the waterline, also having 3 helicopters operating in the same airspace. 3 helicopters operating in the same airspace, always makes me nervous. And having you guys on the station made me feel a lot better with the operations. Thanks again, and I hope to sit down with you this month and go over our training plans. Good luck today. It looks like we're all in for a wild couple of days. Batten down the hatches and call us if you need us. So we really were out there serving as a backup in case something went wrong. We were there to rescue the rescuers, which is a critical aspect of search and rescue. And one of my main points when we respond alone, who's going to rescue us if we get in trouble? And the way we respond to search and rescue right now without the backup puts our crews at danger, the people who we rescue at danger. And I want to improve that by finding the additional funding outside our current budget. The second goal is to identify new sources of income and increase our budget so we have more money to be able to do more things and put towards our capital improvement projects. The third goal, and with our new ERP system, is to improve collections of fees. With our new system, with it being all computerized now, we're able to identify late payment for fees and also take earlier action acting on trying to collect those fees, which will result in increased income for the Harbor District. And then identify funding for Johnson Pier expansion and dock replacement project. This project is coming, the planning and engineering and permitting is coming to completion here in the near future, and we'll be ready to start construction. Issue is that it's a $51 million project, and the only way we're going to be able to afford that is if it's a line item in the congressional budget. And we will be heading to DC to talk to members of Congress and also federal agencies on how we can get that line item in, or if they have other ideas on how to afford the $51 million price tag. But the project will be shovel ready. Goal 5 is make progress on capital improvement projects approved by the board, moving forward to include completion of construction of the ADA restroom began Tenant Row, and that construction's already begun. Begin construction on Surfers Beach restroom and green space. That will start construction very, very soon. Surfers Beach replenishment project. We're hoping to begin that in the spring of 2023. Repair parking lot C1, C2, and C3 at Pillar Point Harbor. Expand the coastal trail from the launch ramp sidewalk to Johnson Pier Road. All those projects are completely funded, and we have the capital now to afford those projects. I also want to complete the design engineering permitting of the launch ramp, restroom, and boat washing stations, and the Pillar Point Retail Center. And finally, complete the design, engineering, and permitting and begin construction of the entrance ramps for docks 1 through 6 and dock 11 at Oyster Point, which flood during king tides. Goal number 6 is to improve the environment of Pillar Point Harbor, and that's really going to focus on the requirements set in the TMDL documents by the Water Board, and we're working with all our partners to address the bacteria levels in our water and beaches of the harbor. Goal number 7 is to develop and implement a wildlife protection plan for Pillar Point Harbor that addresses all our current wildlife, in addition to those that call Pillar Point Harbor home only for a short span of time as they fly through. Focusing on brown pelican and seals. Goal 8 and goal 9 are renegotiate the MOUs with the operating engine. Jumped ahead. Goal 8 is renegotiate the agreement with the city of South San Francisco for the operation of Oyster Point Marina. The 2018 agreement, several things have changed, and we've learned a lot about how the harbor is actually being run now, especially after all the construction and improvements made at Oyster Point. The agreement needs to be amended to reflect that. And we'll be working with South San Francisco to make recommendations to the committee and then finally for board approval and city council approval. Goals 9 and 10, the MOUs with both the Teamsters and the operating engineers local 3 expire this summer on June 30th, 2023. So I want to have in place new MOUs with both unions to carry us forward. Administratively, I want to develop and execute a plan to update district policies. Some go back several years or decades. I want to get those updated. Develop comprehensive dredging plan for Pillow Point Harbor. This is beyond a surfer beach replenishment and dredging operation. What is our dredging needs into the future, and how can we what do we need to do to reach those goals and objectives for the dredging plan? So again, it's a long-term comprehensive dredging plan, which could include a new permanently assigned dredge as one idea to Pillar Point Harbor. For transparency, publish a newsletter quarterly. And then finally, maintain the SLDA District Transparency Certificate of Excellence. Our current certificate expires in this year in 2023. And we've already started the steps to renew that and earn that certificate of transparency. And one goal I forgot to put on that list was for certificates is also earning the award again in recognition from the GFOA for our budget, which we will be applying for and hopefully earning again for 2024. That is the goals and objectives I've set for myself to keep those projects moving. A lot of these will spill into future years, but I really want in 2003 to take a large bite out of the apple on each one of those goals and objectives and move them forward for the district. With that, I'll turn it back to the board for any questions and or guidance.
Okay, thank you, Jim. Do we have comments from the commission? I don't see any comments. I personally think these are maybe ambitious, but I think that's a fairly comprehensive list of goals and objectives, and I support them 100%. Other commissioners?
Commissioner Zemke, it looks like we have a member of the public that would like to speak.
Okay, we can open that to public comment at this time. Go ahead.
Go ahead, John. You should be able to speak.
All right, let's stop the clock if he's not able to speak yet. John?
That one got through finally.
Okay, there we go. Go ahead, John. John, are you able to I'm not sure exactly what the issue is, John. We cannot hear you.
Did it come through this time?
Okay, we can hear you now.
Super. Okay, couple questions. I was surprised to hear that there is no funding whatsoever to fix Johnson Pier, and that the only hope is that now Congress will fund it, and that, or some other agency will fund it, and that is somewhat scary. Second, the timeline for the dredging and anything that you're working on now should be primarily driven by the threat to Highway 1, which itself is a threat to the Harbor District, because if Highway 1 shuts down, it's a mess. And I think that about covers it, but it would be nice to see you address these things a little bit more thoughtfully in the future, and have these meetings at night when it's a lot easier for people to participate. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, John. Any other comments from the public at this time? Okay.
Mr. Zemke, I think Allison M. would like to speak.
Oh, okay. Allison, go ahead.
Hi, I'll make it super quick. The only reason I'm speaking is because I've heard twice about the meetings during the day. And I just want to say that the State Lands Commission meets at 1, the BCDC meets at 1. A lot of these commissions do meet during the day. I don't find it an imposition or inconvenient. In fact, I think it's more difficult to have the public participate at night when they're with their families, et cetera. So I just want to give that input.
Okay, thank you for your comment. Any other hands raised that I don't see?
Nope, no
Okay.
hands raised.
Going back to Jim. Jim, I assume that you would like the board to approve these goals and objectives?
I think it's information only, right,
Okay.
Jim? So I don't think
Yeah,
there needs.
Go ahead, Commissioner Crowley.
Oh, no, I was just gonna ask, are we gonna have a goal setting meeting at all to see, what the board would want to prioritize? Do we need one? I don't know, I'm just throwing it out there.
The intent of submitting these goals and objectives was to inform the board and the public on what I was working on or what the staff was working on this year. And if the board members themselves want to amend those or add to those, we can do that. But I can add to the schedule or the goals throughout the year, depending on what the board directs. But if the board wants to have a goal setting on top of these goals, we can set that up.
I'm not suggesting that we do. I just wanted to throw out that because Bill had mentioned, voting on it, and that, there were a lot of items on the general manager's list. I mean, I think that I agree with you, Bill, that they're all good items and goals to try to achieve.
Right, and at this point, I have no additions that I'd recommend we make to that list.
Yeah, I don't think so.
I think some need to be either, maybe further developed. For example, goal 12 on the comprehensive dredging plan, and has there been any funding to do maybe like what we would call an initial appraisal or initial look at how other harbors have done that? Santa Cruz Harbor, for example, the federal government bought them that dredge. It was a federal dredging project that we were dredging almost 4, sometimes 5 times a year. That's how much sediment was coming into that. So the decision was, let's buy them their own dredge. But part of that would be the analysis that Santa Cruz had to do in terms of sizing the dredge for the type of material, for how much dredging, the quantity, where that material has to go. Maintenance was a very, very big concern also. So these are just things that maybe we can look at somehow with an initial appraisal to kind of get further the concept of how far we want to go with that.
Yeah,
And
so
maybe Jim has done that.
I hear that. I agree, George. That's why I was just wondering if we wanted to schedule something or add it to an agenda so that we can prioritize and maybe give direction. If the general manager needs it, he may not. I mean, he's, in the thick of things down there. So, I
Each
mean,
one of
what
these
I don't
goals-
want is all these all of us giving him direction individually, right?
Right.
Because we as a board have to be together working with him as a unit. And I
Yeah.
don't want to fall back in a situation that, I've experienced on this board where individual commissioners were giving direction to the general manager without real collaboration with the other board members.
Do we want like a further, at another meeting to kind of go through one by one and see if we have comments?
Yeah, so we have done that before, George, in terms of a goal setting meeting, but we haven't done it in a while. I think since I've been on this board, we haven't done it more than we have done it. But I think that we're in a situation now where, Jim has been able to highlight the things that he sees that need to be done. And, I don't know. I mean, it's up to the board. I'm just making I'm just throwing this out there. I'm not even making a suggestion, but I do think that if we want to do that, it's not a bad idea to do that. Because I agree with you, George, that the dredging issue may need to be, something that we focus on more. But I mean, I think that we've done a lot of that too. So a lot of it is just waiting. But what I don't want to get into is that he's got 5 individual commissioners telling him or giving him direction when there hasn't been a board consensus on what, needs to be focused on.
No, I concur.
With each one of the goals, there are multiple subtasks for every goal, and especially with the dredge is why would the dredge be needed year round? Come and justifying that. In Santa Cruz, you're correct. The federal government did buy that, and they came up with an operating schedule where they were able to operate and dredge the channel, and also have maintenance taken care of. Take the dredge down on a regular schedule for maintenance, which extends the life of that dredge. Ventura does it a different way. Their dredge is actually electric and not diesel powered, so it saves the environment. So that's another way. So yes, the subtask, we're going to investigate all the other harbors that have permanent dredges and get reports from them on why they did it and how they did it, and bringing that back to the board. Same thing for develop and implement a wildlife protection plan. That's going to take a lot of input from the public and experts, as well as input and public or input from the board, and it gets several different subtasks on that. And I've already developed multiple subtasks for each one of these. And if the board would like me to bring these back at a workshop to go into depth about the subtasks, I'm happy to do that. But a lot of the subtasks are administrative or very easy and well thought of as we move forward. And I'd be reporting those to the board as each goal is moved forward. So this is not the last time you'll hear of these. I plan on bringing back a mid-year update and then a final, at least 2 more. So the mid-year and at the end of the year on where we're at. But also when we accomplish a major goal, I also plan on bringing that item to the board individually to give the board an update.
Okay. Thank you, Jim. Commissioner Slater Carter, you had your hand up. Did you want to make a comment as well?
I think Jim covered it when he said there was lots of subtext to each of the goals. And that was the part I wanted to know was exactly what the subtext is. So no, I'm very comfortable with what's going on. I would love to have a public workshop on the goals. However, I think it would allow us some time and the public some time to get a good understanding of how far in depth this commission has gone in the past, and what deep thinking the staff has already done too. I think it would make people more comfortable to know that. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Matoush.
I thought that the goals are very complete and spoke for themselves, and I personally would see no reason to have another meeting and take up additional staff time. However, as Commissioner Slater Carter points out, occasionally the public wants to weigh in on these things. What we have here is a professional who has experience up and down the entire coast. And the fact that he already knows who has electric dredges, diesel dredges, and so on, I think that it's almost beneath us to question some of his direction and ideas. So I thought that that was quite an admirable list. As Commissioner or President Zemke said, it's ambitious. However, the general manager said he's going to be keeping us routinely appraised of progress. And that's been evident by the last couple of years that General Manager Pruitt and Operations Director Moran, we've been appraised of everything going on at all times.
Thank you, Tom. Any other commissioner comments? Jim, let me ask you, are you comfortable with doing a mid-year update of this, or you think it would be advisable to do it on a quarterly basis, or any value to that?
Quarterly, I think, would be in excess for reporting to the board due to workload. But if the board desires that, I can do that. Again, if the overall report for mid-year will be the overall report on all the goals, where some of the goals I might be bringing back to the board individually because I'll need board action on some of the subtasks or funding. So, or just to update you on some good news that we have and where we're going. So these don't go into a dark hole. They will be moving forward all year long. And as each one develops, I'll be bringing it to the board for guidance and input and approval.
Okay. I myself am comfortable with the direction that Jim has given. What thoughts of the other commissioners? You comfortable with waiting for the next update in mid-year?
Yeah, I had my hand up. I like all these goals. I mean, don't get me wrong. I think there's a lot of excitement in there of the things that we can do and expand on in the future. Some of them are studies, some of them are other things. There's one that, and maybe some of these we can implement like right away. I don't think, like for a newsletter, Jim, you don't need approval of the commissioners to go forward with a more consistent newsletter, do you? We can just implement that. And then are there other ones that we can just go forward with and say, you won those, let's go for them?
With respect to the newsletter, that's just more of a reminder for me that we need to do it every quarter. And also for the certificate of transparency, that's also a requirement of that. And as a district, we've had some challenges in getting newsletters out. And over the last couple of years, we've been getting better. But for this time, I want to make it a goal and be held accountable if I don't reach that goal. So it's more of a driver for me to stay on track and be accountable for what I'm supposed to be doing.
Yeah. Jim, on the quarterly newsletter, do you have an objective of what in each quarter you want to release the newsletter?
Not specifically, but each newsletter will be in a different season that will address safety of the harbor, boating safety, capital improvement updates. It could include a letter from the president in each one of those newsletters, and also a letter from the general manager in each newsletter. It's just a transparency document to let the public know what we're doing and how we're doing it.
Okay.
More complex ones, I'll definitely be coming back to the board for approval as we move forward, or keeping the board advised of potential issues that will need guidance, especially with the construction contracts and capital improvement projects.
Mhm.
And the wildlife, there's definitely a large public concern for that, and I will be definitely getting input from the public on any draft wildlife plan I put out.
Okay. Okay, at this point in time, any other commissioners that want to make a comment on this? And I think based on that, Jim, hopefully you've got our input and can proceed accordingly.
Thank you.
Okay. Going on to the next item is commissioner comments and future agenda items. This would be an opportunity to allow any commissioners to make kind of a final comment and suggest items that they would like to do in a future agenda.
Commissioner Zemke or President
Yes.
Zemke, I believe you might have skipped the policy change.
Oh, did I? Oh, I did. Son of a gun. Let's back up a bit and make that item number 11, the Brown Act compliance meeting, hybrid meetings. Jim.
Once again, good afternoon. Policy number 3.2 is an existing policy that we have in our policy manual, but with the new way we can conduct meetings, or example under AB 361 and 2442, I believe it is, or 2449. I wanted to update the policy for the district on public meetings and what we're doing into the future. So the district will continue to conduct under this structure, if approved, will conduct all Brown Act meetings in the harbor or in the boardroom, and they will be hybrid meetings. So the public can attend from anywhere they're located via video. The board members or committee members will be in person at the boardroom, which would also be open to the public. And the same thing for board meetings. Board will be at the boardroom like normal, open to the public like a normal meeting, but the public will be able to participate fully in the meeting via Zoom and remote access. And this policy basically states that it's the policy of the district to do that. We're asking for the board to approve the policy via the resolution 2302, which adopts the updated policy. Barring any questions, that's my report.
Okay. Do we have any questions or comments from the commission? Not seeing any.
Bill?
Mr.
Yes. Jan Crowley.
Yeah, so Jim, it sounds like we need approval, so I'll make a motion to approve resolution 23-02, approving policy 3.2 as revised.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, before we vote, I'll just open it up for a public comment, just in case there is some member of the public that would also like to make a comment. I don't see any hands raised. So, okay, can we have a roll call vote, please?
Commissioner Chencarelli,
Aye.
Commissioner Slater Carter,
Yes.
Commissioner Domrat,
Yes,
President Zemke,
Yes.
Commissioner Mathush.
Aye.
Okay, now we can go on to commissioner comments. This would be a chance for commissioners to make any final comments and to suggest future agenda items. Are there any commissioners that would like to make a closing comment? I don't see any hands raised. Okay, I would just like to make the comment that I think this meeting has gone fairly well, and thank you all for your participation. I will entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second,
Okay. Can we have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Slater Carter,
Yes.
Commissioner Donald,
yes.
President Zemke,
Yes.
Commissioner Mathush,
Aye.
Commissioner Jane Crowley.
Aye.
Okay, thank you all for your participation and thanks a lot to the staff for all the great work that's been done the last 3 weeks, and let's hope for a milder rest of January here.
Thank you.
Okay, you guys have a good evening.
Bye.
Bye.